They've given me a few minutes just to talk to all of you in our NASA family about emergency preparedness. NASA recently participated in a FEMA exercise called Eagle Horizon that was a part of a continuity of operations and government exercise that we do annually. And I became aware of some things that concern me about our family preparedness, and I wanted to talk to you very briefly. You know, we in NASA, we're an incredibly unique organization. We're the only agency in the federal government that's responsible for the safety and well-being of people not only here on Earth, but off this planet. So my experience in the astronaut office, my experience as an active duty Marine, always talked about the importance of family preparedness and to make sure that we had a viable family support program. And I have concerns that ours right now is not as good as it ought to be. So what I'm asking all of you in the NASA family, whether you're out on the West Coast, here on the East Coast, along the Gulf Coast, up on the Great Lakes, think about the natural disasters that could occur in your area. Think about attacks that could come like 9/11 from outside forces, and talk to your family about your work and what they need to do to prepare for the unforeseen. Develop a family preparedness plan in your house. Have an emergency supply kit available. Most people who live along the Gulf Coast always have an emergency kit for hurricanes. I'm not sure whether people out on the West Coast think about earthquakes and the like, but have an emergency supply kit at your home. Think about a family communications plan. Where are we going to meet if an emergency occurs and we're all over town? What are we going to do? Are we going to call each other on the cell phone? Just think about those things. If you have pets, think about a pet preparedness plan. How are you going to make sure that they're taken care of when you're spread all over the place? And then if you have family members who have special needs preparedness. The most important asset for us to successfully complete our mission is that our people, our families mainly, are taken care of so that we can come to work and feel good that if an emergency arises, our families are going to be taken care of. So I would ask you again, sit with your families, think about what you would do in an emergency situation. I hope that you'll embrace and support the Family Preparedness Program as we all get better prepared to deal with these emergencies. Know your stuff. You know what it is that you're going to do, know what it is that you want your family to do if an emergency arises. But most of all, be prepared.
Have to do as Americans is we have to commit to understanding the broader picture on who's pulling the puppet strings on our president and on Congress and on even your local leaders. And you have to look at your state governments, you have to look at county governments, because all of these international corporations and their policies have a trickle-down effect. One example would be Agenda 21, which is the use of the environment to wage war on all human activity. So the way that reaches you, like in Las Vegas recently, they're putting in these smart meters on homes that can regulate all the electricity use in your home and report on everything you're doing, and it can even take over your electrical use in your home. So there was a story about a lady who had actually opted out, and you should have an opt-out in these programs, but the police still went to her home with the electrical company representative, cut the lock off of her gate, and put the smart meter on her home and arrested her. So, but that's how these international policies trickle down. And global government, in order to understand global government, you just have to understand the essence of it. You're talking about global taxation. We're talking about a global army. We're talking about global law or international law. So it's the surrendering of your national sovereignty. And you say, well, how would a global taxation come about? Well, another example of that would tie back to Agenda 21. You hear all this talk of carbon taxes. And carbon taxes are a tax on human existence or human life or all life. All life forms are carbon-based. And so the argument that the elites want to get the masses of dumbed-down humans to buy into is that you're pollution. I mean, that's the message, is that the elite think of the human race as actually two species, them and everyone else. So they think of the most of humans as cattle, and if you're a cattle, then you can be, if you're somebody's, then you're somebody's possession, and you can be done away with. This also applies to our elections. They don't really care about whether you elect anybody or not. But I'll talk about that further on. I do want to talk about the Battle of Athens and voting machines. What I want you to be able to do is to research things so that you can commit to wage war. You have to know who's hitting you. You have to know that these elite organizations are a critical part in the problem in America, and that we need to remove their influence, and we need to be willing to do what it takes. We have to be free of them. And you're wondering, well, why don't things change in Washington? That's part of the reason, is that they are in control of the system. One of the things that you should know furthermore is that the monetary system is a big source of control. The Federal Reserve is simply a banking branch of the global banking cartels. So your Congress has no oversight, and they can't even audit the Federal Reserve, and they can't shut it down. That's a strong indication that you need to be able to look at that, and we as Americans need to take back our monetary system. Every state should have its own state bank. Every government is required to pay its debts according to the Constitution in gold and silver, while the free market can use anything it wants for currency. But the current state of affairs in America is that every business is forced to accept Federal Reserve notes. That's what it says on your money. They're Federal Reserve notes for legal tender. No business can do business legally except using that currency. So that is global control. And the global banksters don't care whether it's the US dollar or some other currency. They have control of it, and they're not going to give it up without a fight. So every state needs to be able to look at that.
Telescope can. Now, attached to this telescope is an infrared camera named Lucifer, which is really a kind of an odd name for a camera. And you know, from the information that we gathered, this thing was named by the Max Planck Institute and some German astronomers. But the Vatican is part of this conglomerate up there, and they're all working together. Now, what this instrument's used for is astrobiology, for looking for exoplanets, looking for other worlds. And the infrared spectrum is also very useful for seeing things that can't be seen with the naked eye. And many UFO researchers have noted that you can see a lot of ships and entities that you normally can't see.
Well, first of all, the day that we spent on Mount Graham, the entire day there, we had the Jesuits speaking to us face to face. We also had systems engineers. It was astonishing, the access that they gave us. And one of the things we found amazing in the use of the Lucifer device and even the other telescopes is how commonly the astronomers spoke of UFOs. We were just taken back by the fact that it was almost a nuisance to them that there are so many. And so the phenomenon, to me, is certainly real. Then, of course, you begin defining what it is. Well, to the Vatican and to the astronomers...
But wait a second, it's demonic. Why would the Vatican be studying this?
Yeah, well, not only are they studying it, Corrado Balducci, who was the spokesman for the Vatican, he was their official mouthpiece concerning the alien presence, not just the reality of aliens on other worlds, but an alien presence that is here on Earth now. You can go to YouTube and watch his shows on Italian television when he spoke for the church and said that the church was using its embassies around the world to compile information, a case study, if you will, on what the aliens are doing on Earth now. So the belief system is deep, regardless of what you or I might make out of it. And I got to tell you, especially when it comes to alien abduction, I am convinced that we are talking about demonic activity, not intelligences from another world, maybe from another dimension. What they're saying to us now is it's going to affect Christian belief. There is a professor for the Pope's University in Rome, and he is a very highly respected intellectual. His last name is Tanzaniti. And he has written a paper now in which he is saying that very soon, not right in the beginning, we won't have to deny our Christian faith in the beginning. But there is information coming from another world, and once it is confirmed, it is going to require a rereading of the gospel as we know it. And that's the kind of information that we are receiving from the highest levels of Vatican intelligentsia.
Where's this headed, in your opinion, after all this research?
I think it's headed towards an imminent great deception. I think they either know something or they suspect something, and that's why they're preparing the Catholic faithful. And of course, the Vatican has reached beyond Catholics, but they're trying to prepare the world. Well, the idea among both Catholics and Protestant scholars is that he will be the final pope. He is the one who is going to be residing over the Vatican as it enters into the Great Tribulation period. And there's also the belief among even some of the Catholic mystics that he might be a false pope, an anti-pope, somebody who helps give rise to the Antichrist.
Let me tell you something. Judaism, Christianity, and other religions have focused on the year 2012. You know, remember the Mayan prediction, the end of the world in 2012? So everyone's discounted all of that, but that's not exactly what the prediction said. What did it say?
In the conferences where I spoke last year, I kept telling people, don't say it's the end of the world. That's not what the Maya said. That's not what the Aztecs said. That's not what the Cherokee Indians said, all of whose calendar rolled over at the end of 2012. What was it that they were saying? They were saying 2012 was the end of an era, and 2013 marks a new dispensation. Now, the Maya said some things that were very interesting. They said it would be marked by the emergence of two great male figures who would emerge upon the earth. They sound very much like they're talking about the false prophet and the Antichrist. They talked about their god Bolyan Yakteku, the spirit of it, coming up from out of the underworld. Now, what does this god do? He guards the bones and the seed of the giants that are in the underworld, and that spirit would begin to rise in the year 2013, giving birth even to a new form of humanity.
You're talking about what I've read about and pondered so many times in the Bible. Maybe you've read this about the Nephilim, where the sons of God cohabited with the daughters of humans and produced great giants. That's what it sounds like to me.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And furthermore, turn-of-the-century preachers, including Jonathan Edwards, marked the year 2012 to 2016 as the date when the false prophet and the Antichrist would appear. Dozens of Protestant reformers marked these years hundreds of years ago.